Okay, this is a Unit 5 test review for the PreAP test. Okay, so we're going to start with the first ones. Now remember, on these you're solving a quadratic linear system, and when you do that, remember they can have two solutions, so they can intersect twice. They can intersect one time, and then sometimes they'll never intersect, and that's when you don't have any solutions. You don't have any real solutions. So on these, you pretty much want to make sure you either substitute or you solve each one for y. So for instance, I'll do number 4. So on number 4, what I could do is I can tell that y equals 10x, so I can take that 10x and put it in for the y. So here, I would have 10x minus 25 equals x squared. Now, you may be tempted to move this x squared over, but if you do that, it'll become negative and you'll have more steps to do. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move everything to the other side. And when I do that, now what I have is x squared minus 10x plus 25. Now, I notice my a is 1. So I don't need to worry about grouping. So I can go straight to my factors. So what two numbers will multiply to get 25 and also combine to get negative 10? Well, I notice that it needs to be two negatives, because a negative times a negative is also a positive. So this would be x minus 5, x minus 5. Now, my x will only equal 5. So this is an example of one solution. So on this one here, I'm not finished yet, because again, I'm looking for an ordered pair. I only know what the x is. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 5, and I'm going to substitute it in here, because that looks like the easiest one to find out what the y is. So here, y equals 10 times x, so 10 times 5, which means y is 50. Okay, so that's a way of doing it with substitution. I notice on this one, I could set these equal to each other. So on this one, I could set them equal to each other. So that gives me x squared minus 11x minus 36 equals negative 12x plus 36. Again, I want it to equal 0. So I'm going to move everything to the other side. Okay, so that gives me x squared plus x minus 72. Alright, so here again I can factor. So I'm trying to figure out what two numbers will multiply to get negative 72 and combine to get positive 1. I know that 8 times 9 is 72, but this would have to be the negative because 9 minus 8 is positive 1. Alright, so I have x minus 8, x plus 9. Now I can tell this is going to have two solutions, because I have two different x values. Alright, so at this point what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute them in. So I usually like to choose the linear ones to substitute into. So that gives me negative 12 times 8 plus 36. And this one would give me negative 12 times negative 9 plus 36. Alright, well this one ends up being 144. And this one here, if I type it in, or I guess I can just do it by hand, I'll be good. Okay, so negative 96 plus 36, and that gives me negative 60. So this is going to intersect at 8, negative 60, and then this one will intersect at negative 9, 144. Okay, on this one here it says an eagle standing on a cliff 12 feet above the ground saw the ball. The eagle flies downward at a rate 2 feet per second, modeling the equation y equals negative 2x plus 12. The eagle sees a ball being tossed and following the path of parabola. At 0 seconds, the height of the ball was 9 feet. Okay, so there's one of my ordered pairs, 0, 9. At 1 second, the height of the ball was 10 feet. And at 2 seconds, the height of the ball was 5 feet. Write a quadratic function to represent the path of the ball. Now it tells me to do a regression, so I'm going to go to Stat Edit. And I'm going to type everything in. So 0, 1, and 2. And 9, 10, and 5. Alright, so I'm going to do Stat Calc. I'm going to do a quad reg because there's 3 points and it's a parabola. And there's my equation. So for my quadratic equation, it's going to be y equals negative 3x squared plus 4x plus c. All right, this one here you will be able to use your calculator, so I'm going to go to y equals and do this one. So I'm going to type in negative 3x squared plus 4x, and now I'm just realizing that I did not put the value for the c. Let me do a stat calc again. And c should have been 9. Pretend like that's a 9. Okay, so here we go. Alright, so let me go back and go to y equals and type in that, since I forgot to find out what the c was. So plus 9. And then the other equation was negative 2x plus 12. Okay, I'm going to graph that just to kind of get an idea of what it looks like. See if I need to zoom in or anything. Can't see the intersection too well, so I'm going to zoom in or zoom out a little bit. Remember, you got to hit it one more time to activate it. Okay, so now I'm going to do a second trace. So I think it intersects. Let me try to do second trace, intersect, enter, enter, enter. And there it is. Okay, so technically that's 1/10. So at 1 second, this is your time. So at 1 second, and that's technically 10, at a height of 10. So yes, it does intersect. The eagle will get the ball. I'm not sure what he'll do with it at that point, but he'll get it. All right. Okay, let's flip it. Okay, so on these here, we're going to use our calculator to do a matrix, but the first thing we have to do is we have to write the equation. So this one says the carnival is offering a special on game tickets. You can purchase for $20 either 14 gold, so 14 gold, plus 20 silver, plus 24 bronze, and again, they're all $20. Okay, so I did this one. Or 20 gold, 15 silver, and 19 bronze, and again, it's all $20. Or 30 gold, 5 silver, and 13 bronze, and again, $20. Okay, so I'm going to set that up in a matrix. Okay, so 14, 20, 24, and 20, 20, 15, 19, and 20, 30, 5, 13, and 20. Okay, so if I start working this out, I'm going to go to the matrix. Okay, I have some information there from last time, but that's okay because I'm just going to type over everything. So 14, 20, 24, 20, 20, 15, 19, 20, 30, 5, 13, and 20. Okay, so again, you're always going in and out, in and out. I'm in it, now I'm out of it, and I'm going back in it. I go to math, go down to RF, remember the 2 R's, not the 1, just the 2 R's. Hit enter, okay, I'm out of it, now I'm going to go back in it, and hit enter twice, because I want to use the first matrix. That's where my 3x4 is. And I can tell something is not right, because those don't look right. So let me go back to my matrix, and let me just double check everything. Okay, so 14, oh, there it is. And let me just check the rest of it while I'm at it. And again, I mean, sometimes you'll get decimals, but if they look wonky, y'all, you know, you probably entered something in wrong. So let me go do it again. Okay, that looks better. All right, so I know that the gold will cost 50 cents. I know that the silver will be 35 cents, and the bronze will be 25 cents. Okay, let's take a look at this one. It says the movie theaters last weekend sold 8,500 tickets for a total of $64,600. Matinee tickets cost $5, students are $6, regular is $8.50. This can be tricky. They sold twice as many student tickets as they sold matinee tickets. How many of each type of ticket did the theater sell? Okay, well, I know I've got matinee tickets. I know I have student tickets, and I know I have regular tickets. Okay, so those are the variables I'm going to use. So they sold a total of 8,500 of those tickets. As far as the money they made, they sold the matinee for $5. They sold the students for $6, and they sold the regular tickets for $8.50, and then they made $64,600. This is the one that's difficult. They sold twice as many student tickets. That means that the greatest amount is the students. That's what it has to equal. Twice as many students as they sold matinee, so 2M. And again, this makes sense because if I sold 10 matinees, that means I sold 20 of these, which again gives me twice as many student tickets, okay? Don't be thinking you need to put an M here and 2S, because that means you sold more matinee. So S equals 2M. Now here's the problem with this one. If I put it in the matrix, I have to subtract this over, because all your variables have to be on your left-hand side. So my new equation in alphabetical order will be negative 2M plus S equals, there's nothing left, so 0. All right, if I set up my matrix, on this one here, I'm going to have a 1, 1, 1, 8,500. This will be 5, 6, 850, 64,600. Now this one here, I have an M is negative 2, S is 1, but there's no R, so 0, and it also equals 0. Okay, so on this one here, I'm going to go back to my matrix. Okay, I'm going to make sure I type everything in right. But if my numbers come out wonky, I'm going to go back and take a look. And make sure y'all can read your handwriting also. I saw somebody put this in as 64,000 the other day because they thought their 6 was a 0. So make sure y'all can read your handwriting. Okay, I'm going to get out of the matrix. And I didn't get out of it. All right, now I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to do alpha apps to get down to that R ref. Then I'm going to go back to the matrix and tell it to use the first one. And there's my answer. So with the matinee, they sold 900 matinee. They sold 1,800 of the students, again because they sold twice as many students as matinee. And then the regular tickets were 5,800. Okay, so down here they do want you to use a calculator. I'm going to skip these two. So down here they want you to solve these using the calculator. So I'm going to do this one because it's a little bit more complicated. This one is pretty much just ready to be put into the matrix because all the variables are on the left-hand side. But this one you will have to rewrite and make sure they're in alphabetical. So I'm going to do minus 3y. So that now is 4x minus 3y plus 2z equals 12. For this one I got to subtract everything over. So that gives me negative 3x, again alphabetical, plus 2y minus 3z equals negative 5. And again, this one, I'm going to subtract everything over. Again, alphabetical, the x will go first, so negative 2x plus y minus 7z equals 8. Alright, so if I set that up in a matrix, that is a really crooked matrix, so just ignore that please. Alright, so 4, negative 3, 2, and 12. Negative 3, 2, negative 3, and negative 5. And negative 2, 1, negative 7, and 8. Okay, so again, I'm actually not going to do the matrix on this one. I've done 2 so far. So you're pretty much just going to put it in the calculator. I actually did this problem earlier. So this is the answer you should have gotten. Okay, so 1, negative 4, negative 2. Okay, let's flip the page. All right, these are the inequalities. I'm only going to do a few of these. I'm definitely going to do this one. So with this one here, again, y'all, the main thing is that y'all remember this, that if it's, just a less than or greater than, it's dashed. If it has the line underneath it for greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, it's solid. The less than symbols tell you shade below, and the greater than you shade above. So that symbol only tells me the shading in the line, nothing else. Alright, so on this one here, I can tell I'm going to have a solid line. And I also can tell I'm going to shade below because it's less than. Alright, so my starting point here is at 2. My slope is 1/2, so rise 1, run 2. And I'm going to do it a couple more times so I can make my line as straight as possible. Okay, so that's going to be a straight line. And I'm going to shade below it. Okay, the next one, less than. I can also tell it's going to be dashed. So it's going to be dashed, and I'm going to shade below again. My starting point here is at -3. And then my slope is -2/1. So make sure your line is dropping. And again, I'm going to add a few more points to make sure my line is as straight as possible. And it will be dashed. Okay, this is shade below. So if I put my pen on the y-intercept and I move down, it's going to be down here. Okay, and there it is. Alright, so for this one here, let's check 4, 4. Well, 4, 4 is all the way over here. I mean, it's on a line, it's by a shaded area, but it's not the double shaded area. This is the only area I really care about right now. Okay, so that's not it. Okay, so -2, -3, that works. It's about right there. And then 4, -1, nope, it's only in the single shaded. 0, 3, it's not in any shaded, that's a way off. And then -6, -4 is somewhere down there, so that's good to go. Alright, on these here, all I'm doing is, as I'm writing the inequalities. So for this one here, the most important symbol here is at least. You've got to remember that at least is greater than or equal to, because you have to be at least 18 to vote, so that means you can be 18 and greater. So this one says the girls swim team is hosting a fundraiser. They'd like to raise at least greater than or equal to $500. They are selling candles for $5 and flower arrangements for $6. The girls estimate that they will sell at the most 200, so less than or equal to 200. Alright, so for the money one, I'm going to use C for candles and F for flower arrangements. So they're going to sell the candles for $5 and the flower arrangements for $6. Now here this can be difficult because you're kind of like, well, what goes there? Well, what are they selling? They're selling candles and flower arrangements. Okay, alright, on this one here I'm going to do number 16. In any given day on Snapchat, Jackson snaps at least 3 more than twice what Shelby snaps. So I'm going to make Jackson my Y, because I can already tell I'm going to have Y is at least. And then I'm going to make Shelby my my X. So Jackson will be the Y, and Shelby will be the X. Alright, so Y is at least 3 more than twice what Shelby did, so 2X plus 3. Jackson also snaps less than, so Jackson again, so Y is less than 8 more than Shelby, so X plus 8. If Jackson's snaps are represented with Y and Shelby's snaps are represented with X, write a system of inequalities to represent this scenario and then graph the solution. Alright, so here's my system. Those are my 2 inequalities that I'm about to graph. That's my system. Alright, so remember, this is the X, so this is Shelby's information, and this is Y's. So this is all Shelby, and this is all Jackson. Okay, so I'm going to graph this one first. So I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. That's my starting point, and then my slope is 2. So up and over, up and over, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. All right, this tells me it's going to be a solid line. Okay. And it's also going to be shaded above because it's greater. Okay. Now the next one is going to be at 8. So I'm going to start at 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My slope is 1. So rise 1 over 1, rise 1 over 1, rise 1 over 1. And this will be a dashed line. Okay, and it's less than, so I'm going to shade below. Okay, so everything in there represents how many snaps they did. So, for instance, if I chose this point right here, this point is located at 1, 1, 6. So that means that Shelby, okay, only snapped 1, and Jackson snapped 6. All right, let's look on the back. Okay, on these here, I'm not going to do the very basic ones. The only thing I'm going to say about this one, because they want the product, once you find out what your V, your X, once you find out what your V, your X, and your Z are, you need to multiply them, and that will be the product, okay? All right, let's take a look. I'm going to do... Okay, I'll do this one right here. All right, so the first thing you always want to do is you'll want to analyze. Don't be in a hurry to just start working it. Analyze it first. So I'm going to label this one 1, this one 2, and this one 3. Okay, so if I take 2 and 3, what I notice is if I take 2 and 3, I can cancel out the S's and I can cancel out the U's. So if I do that, that leaves me with R equaling 4 plus 2 is 6. So right off the bat, I'm already ready to go. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start trying to find other variables that I can use. So I notice that I can get rid of a U here if I use that. So I'm going to take 1 and 2, because I'm always looking for the same coefficient, opposite sign. These both have a coefficient of 1, and they also have opposite signs. So R plus 2S minus U equals 8, and S plus U equals 4. So this is out. Now what's nice is I already know what the R is. I know the R is 6, so I'm actually going to change that R to a 6. Okay, so what I now have is I have 6 plus 3S equals 12. All right, so if I subtract 6 and subtract 6, that gives me 3S equals 6. Divide by 3, S equals 2. All right, so I know what the R and the S are. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute everything back in here to find out what the U is. Or, you know what, actually, I'm going to substitute it in there. Because I only have 2 variables here, and I already know one of them, so I can find the other one. So now I'm going to take 2 and substitute everything in. So 2 plus U equals 4, minus 2, U equals 2. All right, what's nice about these, y'all, is I can check them. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to substitute everything in. So R is 6 plus 2, which is times S, which is 2, minus U, which is 2. All right, I don't know why I just put that, so just ignore that. All right, so 6 plus 4 is 10. Minus 2 is 8. So I know I'm correct. And again, I'm going to write it as an ordered triple, alphabetically, R, S, and U. Whoops. So 6, 2, and 2. Has to be in alphabetical order. Okay. This one here is very similar to what we'd already done earlier. I'm going to do this one first, and I'll get back to that one. All right, so on this one here, these are those extremely lengthy ones. So the main thing you want to do right away, y'all, is look to where you can eliminate variables. That's probably the most important thing here. So what I'm looking at is if I choose 1 and 2, I can eliminate a z because they have the same coefficient and opposite signs. Okay, so that goes bye-bye. What I'm left with is 7x minus y equals negative 30. Now, I also need to choose 2 more, so I'm going to choose 2 and 3. And again, the reason I'm choosing that one is because I noticed they have the different signs and the same coefficient. Okay, so that eliminates, and that leaves me with 5x minus 2y equals negative 24. Now, here's the problem. If I look at these, I don't see any coefficients that are the same, nor do I see opposite signs. So what I can do here is I can multiply this by 2, and that will give me a negative 2, but because I also want an opposite sign, I'm going to do it by a negative 2. So if I multiply this whole thing, and don't forget the last one, everybody seems to always forget that one, I'm going to end up with negative 14x plus 2y equals 60. I'm going to line that one up underneath it. So 5x minus 2y equals negative 24. Y's cancel out. That gives me negative 9x equals 36. Oh good, this is going to come out as a nice number. And x equals negative 4. Alright, so now what I can do is I can go back to one of my equations. So I'm going to go back here where I only have, and I'm going to find out what the y is. So I'm going to do 5 times negative 4, that's what my x is, minus 2y equals negative 24. That gives me negative 20 minus 2y equals negative 24. And add the 20, add the 20. That gives me negative 2y equals negative 4. Divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2, y equals 2. Alright, so I got the x and the y. Now I want to go back up to my original equations and find out what the z is. Now, I kind of like this one. I like how this one just doesn't have any coefficients, so I can just kind of put everything in. Alright, so I've got negative 4 for the x, plus 2 for the y, don't know what the z is, equals negative 1. Alright, if I combine this, that gives me negative 2 minus z equals negative 1. Add the 2, add the 2. Be careful here, I got a negative z left, and then the sign will flip because I got to divide by a negative. Okay, so if I write that as an ordered triple, I'm going to have negative 4 as my x, 2 is my y, and negative 1 is my z. And again, it's worth checking. Be willing to take that extra few minutes and substitute everything in. So negative 4 plus 2 minus negative 1 equals negative 1. I'll do that up here. So that gives me negative 4 plus 2, that's a positive 1, equals negative 1. Negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. Yay, I got it right. Okay, on this one here, again, it kind of goes back to the first page. And the reason I know that is because it's a quadratic. So there's a lot of different ways you could do this. A lot of people like to solve them both for y. So if I solve this one both for y, this is what I end up with. And then I'm going to set them equal to each other. So x squared minus 2x minus 6 equals 4x plus 10. I'm going to do minus 4x minus 4x. Again, I got to make everything equal 0. That gives me x squared minus 6x minus 16 equals 0. So what two numbers will multiply to negative 16 and combine to negative 6? Well, I know 8 and 2, but this would have to be the negative and this would have to be the positive. Alright, so x equals 8, x equals negative 2. I know there's going to be two solutions. Now, I'm going to take where I rewrote this, because remember, I rewrote this equation as y equals 4x plus 10. So that's what I'm going to use to substitute here. Okay, so y equals 4 times 8 plus 10. That gives you 42. So 8 and 42 is where one intersection is. Again, I'm going to do the same thing here. 4 times negative 2 plus 10. That gives me negative 8 plus 10, which is 2. So this intersects at negative 2, 2. All right, y'all. That's it. Again, make sure y'all do know how to solve these on top. You always start with the smallest one. And once you start going from there, you just kind of move up to the next one. I guess I'm just going to end up doing this one real quick. Ignore that. And then you just move up to the next one again. And voila, you have all your solutions. And again, you want to make sure you write it in that order triple. And check your work. Always check your work. Check, 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 check. All right, hope that helps y'all. If you need any help, just make sure you let your teacher know.